Hi, I'm Phil Hamilton with RX Care Assurance here to talk with you about administering medications with the OPUS medication system. First thing we want to talk about is the RX Care Assurance card. I want you to be aware of the features and the functions on the cart, so when you start your MedPass, you have everything that you need and can make your MedPass quicker and more efficient. Let's take a look first at this side of the cart. Up top we have an integrated drop leaf that folds down. This is a convenient place to put a MAR book or other items. Then when you park the cart, it simply goes upright, slides down behind the cabinet, and it's out of the way. Below the integrated drop leaf we have a position for a sharps container, and below that is another locking cabinet. It's not designed for medications, but it's a great place to put ancillary items such as a BP cuff, stethoscope, that sort of thing. Let's take a look at the other side of the cart. Up here we have a supply container. This is for spoons, dose cups, straws, that sort of thing. Down below is a waste container. This is a single-sided cart. All of your drawers are on this side of the cart. The drawers all have stops so that they will not pull out and drop anything down on the floor. At the bottom of the cart we have a 9-inch deep supply drawer with a divider set. This is for your liquids, your bulk items. You also have a narcotics box, which is an option on carts down below. Key goes in, opens up like that. Now if you'll notice, the key will not pull out of the narcotics lock until the box is closed and it is back in the locked position. For the medication cart itself, this particular cart has 2 locks on it. Some carts have 1, some have 2, but they both work exactly the same way. So we're just going to take a look at one of the locks. 2 different ways to lock an OPUS medication cart. You can push your button down with your thumb and it'll lock every drawer in the cart. But what a lot of people find is a lot easier, there is a tow bar down at the bottom of the cart, and there will be one for each lock. Simply step on that with your toe and it locks every drawer in the medication cart. To unlock the cart, simply put the key in, give it a quarter turn, and the lock will pop up. Each key has a serial number. Each lock has a serial number on it. You can match your keys to your lock with that. The key that fits this lock will not fit that lock. Each cart has individually keyed locks. Also an option on the cart if you're using electronic MARs. We have a laptop holder here up top for electronic MARs. The carts that are manufactured come pre-built for this laptop stand, so if you need it later on, it's very, very easy to add it onto the cart. Down at the bottom of the cart, we have tan colored wheel brakes. That is to lock the cart in position if you're going into a residence room. You know, when I go into a nursing home or an assisted living facility and I see an RX Care Assurance cart out in the hall, I love to see that wheel brake on there, because if a resident is walking down the hall and they reach out to steady themselves on your med cart because it's up against the wall, it's going to be less prone to roll out of the way. Another feature on our carts is the track lock. Roll it around where you can see it over here. The track lock is color-coded black, and what it does, it locks the wheel in a straight position. You know how if maybe you finished your med pass, you're at one end of the hall and you got to go all the way back down to the med room. You want your cart to go in a perfectly straight line because it's easier. Simply press that down, and if you'll listen carefully, hopefully you'll be able to hear this. The wheel clicked into place. Now that wheel is now locked in a straight position, so as the med cart goes down the hall, it's going to track in a straight line. Of course, when you need to turn it in the med room, simply click it with your foot and click it off, and then you can make your turn. Let's talk just a minute about maintenance on an RX Care Assurance med cart. The carts are virtually maintenance free. Biggest maintenance item to them is simply keeping the med carts clean. Of course, there's a lot of reasons to keep a med cart clean. Number 1 is infection control. We don't want to be passing germs and bacteria around the facility. Another big reason is outward appearance of the cart. You know, there's a lot of people that go through the facilities. Everyone from family members who are looking for a nice place to put mom or dad, to state surveyors. And the better your cart looks on the outside, the more impressed people are going to be with your facility. To clean the med cart is very, very simple. We recommend at the end of every med pass that you clean the cart top. Please use a product that does not contain chlorine bleach. Just simply spray the top, wipe it off. That's going to keep your cart looking beautiful for years and years and years. Once a week, clean the entire exterior surface of the cart, wipe everything down, pull your wastebasket off the side, clean it. Do the same thing with your supply container. And it simply slips on and off just like that. Wipe everything down. Pay particular attention to any extrusions, anything that sticks out, because that's where dust is going to settle. Now, I guarantee if you do that, you're going to have a great looking med cart for a long, long time, and folks going through your facility are going to be impressed with the appearance of your medication cart. Now, let's take a look at the OPUS system. The system we're going to be looking at today is our 14-day system. We also have 7-day systems, 31-day systems, multi-dose systems. We're going to look at the 14-day system. It's our most popular system, and all of our systems work basically the same way. What the pharmacy does is packages the medication into airtight containers like these called cassettes. Now, the medications are unit dose. They're not multi-dose. In other words, you would never have 2 different dosages or 2 different medications in the same cassette. When I look at this cassette, and it says Lipitor on there, that's all that would ever be packaged in here is that particular dose of Lipitor. The cassette itself is organized by the day of the week, and it goes left to right, top to bottom, just like we read, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so on and so forth. There's a spare dose down at the bottom. So if someone drops a pill, someone spits out a pill, the physician orders an additional dose, you can go to your spare, and that way you don't interrupt your cycle. Now, it's very important, though, anytime that you use a spare dose, please flip over to the back of the MAR and document why you use the spare dose, because obviously there has to be accountability for every dose that comes out of the cassette. If the medication is set up on an every other day basis, the pharmacy will package and put opaque lids on the days that the resident does not get the medication. For example, they get it Friday but not Saturday, so on and so forth. We see this used a lot for the Coumadin doses, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a strictly every other day dose. It can actually be any time that a resident is not given a pill. The cassettes themselves are color-coded for the time of day. Pink is morning, yellow is noon, green is afternoon, orange is supper time, gray is hour of sleep, purple is middle of the night or a medication that's given very early in the morning. Most facilities have 2 morning med passes, typically one about 6 or 6:30 in the morning, and then another med pass, maybe 7:30 or 8. Those early morning medications would go into the purple cassette. We have a red cassette for your PRN medications, and it simply says chart on the PRN sheet because obviously we have no idea when or if those medications will be given. For your control medications, we have blue cassettes, and instead of having days of the week, these are numbered, and it's a decreasing narcotics count. For example, this one starts 16, 15, 14, 13. So if your staff pulls an order, it makes it very, very quick and easy to do that narcotics count. This is a 16-dose narcotics cassette. We also have an 8-dose and a 32-dose narcotics cassette. Let's do a pretend OPUS Med Pass. Pretend in that I don't have a resident, I don't have a pill, so we're going to simulate an OPUS Med Pass. But I think you'll get the idea of what we are doing here in this medication pass. We're also going to pretend that I'm a nurse. So I come up to the cart, I open the cart, I find my appropriate resident's bin, because every bin will be labeled by the pharmacy with the resident's name and room number on there. I pull it out of the cart and set it on top of the cart. Now I just accomplished 2 important safety steps. One is safety for you, the caregiver. You know, with most other systems, when you do your med pass, you have to open a drawer, bend over, and work out of that drawer bending over. And obviously bending is not good for the back. With the OPUS system, the resident's bin comes entirely out of the cart, goes on top of the cart. Now I've got it at a good, convenient working height. Also have it in good light where I can see what I'm doing. Second safety phase of that one step is for your resident. With other systems, when you open a drawer, you may have 8 or 10 other residents in that drawer. With the OPUS system, you deal with one resident at a time, and that's all you have on top of your cart. With other systems, you could accidentally pull a card from the wrong spot out of the drawer. You could put the right card back into a different resident, which could lead to a mid-error. With OPUS, you deal with one resident at a time. You never have two different residents on top of your cart. That way you can't pull from the wrong resident. You can't put back to the wrong resident. We'll pretend that it's Friday morning, so I want my pink cassettes, and it wouldn't matter if it was Tuesday morning. It will still be pink. I pull those out. I slide these cassettes forward. Now I just got the noon med pass ready to go. I've left an opening to replace the pink ones back into. The red PRN typically we just leave at the back. I'm going to look at my imaginary MAR, and I see, yes, she gets that dosage of Reglan, and she gets the Coumadin, and she gets the Lanoxin. I'm going to look over the rest of the MAR. There could be an eye drop, an inhaler, a topical, could be anything else, but I'll look over the rest of the MAR, and that's all the meds that I see for this resident this morning. I got my dose cup, set it there, take my second look at the label, open up Friday's dose, I drop the pill into the cup, third look at the label, and that cassette goes in the back because I'm through with it. By tomorrow morning, it will have rotated to the front. The lid simply goes into the wastebasket because the pharmacy will put new lids on when they refill the cassettes. Now, most caregivers set a cup on top of their cart, drop the lids in the cup. When the cup's full, then empty it into the wastebasket. Stops that repetitive motion of going to the wastebasket every time. I go to the next cassette and I do the same thing. Now, hopefully you'll be able to hear this on camera, but I want you to listen carefully when I open the cassette. We have 3 different forms of tamper evidence, 3 different ways to tell if anyone has tampered with the medications. And what we're trying to do is hit 3 different physical senses. Now listen when I open this. If you hear that click tells me that the cassette has never been opened before. Now let me put the lid back on there, and the lid is on there, and I open it now. Sense of hearing, no click. Someone may have tampered with the meds. Sense of touch, there was no resistance. Someone may have tampered with the meds. The third cue is visual. If the lid is put back on the cassette and you look at the edge of the lid adjacent to the day of the week strip, the edge of the lid is frosted. You can actually look at a cassette and tell if anyone has tampered with the medication. So that goes into a cup. Third look at the label, that goes into the back. And I simply repeat the process with my last cassette. Let me show you a different way to open the cassettes also, because some people just aren't comfortable with holding a cassette in your hand and opening it, and that's fine. Lay it on top of the medication cart, put your fingers across the days of the week that you don't want to open, and open Friday's dose. Now the reason for covering up these other lids is that I want to open up Friday's dose and only Friday's dose, and that pretty much forces me to do that. That goes into a cup. Third look at the label. That cassette goes into the back. At this point, I take my bin, I put it back into the cart, I pick up my dose cup, pick up my cup of water, lock my medication cart, I go administer the meds, come back out, chart it, and then I go on to my next resident, my next, and my next, until I'm through with the morning med pass. What I want to do now is look, when I'm finished with the med pass, I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. You know, it's easy to miss someone in long-term care because residents aren't always where you think they're going to be. You get interrupted on the med pass. Anything can happen. So omissions, failure to give a medication, is the #1 medication error nationwide in long-term care. With the OPUS system, you can prevent this, and this is how. I still want to review my MAR, make sure that I have all my documentation done. But I want to take that one step further. I want to look at the medications in the medication cart and make sure I didn't miss anyone. It takes 2 minutes or less to do this. I simply start pulling open drawers in the cart and I'm looking at the bins. I should have no pink cassettes up front. And I go on to my second drawer and I notice I have a bin with pink cassettes up front. Well, the question now is, did I forget to rotate or did I not administer the medication? I pull the cassette out and look. Obviously, Friday's dose is still in the cassette. In any other system, that would have been a medication error. That would have been a missed medication. But not with the OPUS system because I'm still in this MedPass time frame. I have discovered a potential medication error and stopped it before it turned into a medication error. So at this point, I go back to my MAR. I verify, yes, I should have given this medication. I find my resident, administer it, rotate the cassettes, make sure it's charted, and then I continue checking the medication cart. It's very, very, very important that you do this. And if you do this at the end of every med pass, I guarantee that you'll never, ever miss a medication that is packaged in the OPUS system. Of course, once you've checked your cart and found that all the meds have been administered, you've checked your charting, you've done all your charting, give your cart your quick cleanup, return it to the medication room or where you store your cart. Make sure that the cart is locked and that you have the keys with you. Now, we do have some aids for you as you're doing the medication pass. This is our time pass checklist that has the colors and the times. In addition, there are 8 steps to administering meds with OPUS down at the bottom of it. You may obtain more copies of these simply by calling your pharmacy or calling us directly at RX Care Assurance. We'll be more than happy to get you some more copies of the time pass checklist. Now, let's take a look now at a few particulars with the OPUS system and pharmacy service. First thing I want to talk about is pharmacy communications. Pharmacy communications, extremely important. You know, your pharmacy, whether it is within the walls of your facility or most likely is not within the walls of your facility, is part of your health team. The more information that you provide them, the more knowledge they have about the day-to-day activities in your building, the better the job they can do for you. So one of the first things that comes to mind is communications of orders. Absolutely critical. When you get a new order in for a resident, please fax it immediately to the pharmacy. Please don't hold all your new orders to the end of the day and fax them one at a time. Fax them as you get them so the pharmacy can start work on your new order, get the order filled and out to you where you can administer it to your resident. Just as important are new orders are discontinued meds. The OPUS system is a true cycle-filled system. There's no reordering of your solid oral routine medications, which saves you hours of time every month as opposed to peeling labels off of packages and faxing into the pharmacy for every reorder. However, if a medication is discontinued, it's absolutely important you notify the pharmacy that it has been discontinued. So let's take a look at how we do that. Typical situation, resident goes to the physician, comes back, you get the physician's orders and you're looking at them and you take a look and go, oh, okay, this resident's Lipitor has been discontinued. Fax a copy of the order along with any other particular paperwork that your pharmacy may have to the pharmacy, letting them know that that medication has been discontinued. On your side, go to the cart, obviously DC it on the MAR, open up the drawer, find that resident's Lipitor, write DC on the label, and please, that's the only time you should ever write on a label and never, ever, ever write on a cassette. Drop it in your pharmacy return box so that the next time the pharmacy picks up, they'll get this discontinued med and it will go back to the pharmacy. And from your end, you're done. Now, at the pharmacy's end, when they get this DC, if they do not receive your med back typically within 24 hours, they're going to pick up the phone, give you a call. Hey, we got a DC order on Mrs. Jones' Lipitor. We did not get the cassette back. And we've got that in play for several reasons. Number one is to ensure that a resident's no longer continuing to receive a discontinued medication. Number two is to make sure a DC'd med is no longer on the medication cart. And number three is simply to track the cassette back to the pharmacy. Now, obviously, if you don't know the pharmacy when there's a discontinued medication, then when cycle time comes, they don't know. They're going to send it. So please let the pharmacy be aware of your discontinued medications. Other things that you want to notify the pharmacy about are if a resident goes into the hospital. And a really handy thing to do if you have a resident that goes into the hospital is simply take their benefit cassettes in the cart, unless in your state it requires you to go ahead and send the meds back to the pharmacy. Some states do. But turn the cassettes label side down in the bin while the resident is in the hospital. That way, when you do your cart check, you don't go, oh, I've missed someone. You know that that resident is not there, they're in the hospital. If you move a resident from one room to another, please notify the pharmacy. Basically, any change in status of a resident, whether a resident moves, expires, goes in the hospital, goes on leave of absence, please, please, please notify the pharmacy. Different pharmacies handle LOA, your leave of absence meds in different methods. So I'm not going to go into specifics on that. As a generality though, the more advance notice you can give the pharmacy when your resident is going leave of absence, the better. Keep particularly in mind holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Those are times when a lot of residents are going LOA, and the pharmacy really needs a couple of weeks at least advance notice on that so they can get those meds ready so that your resident can safely leave and go home for leave of absence. Let's take a look at a couple of things that are asked sometimes about the cassettes, and that is simply, what if I open the wrong day? Well, you remember I said you would never have two different medications. You should never have two different dosages packaged in the cassette. Every med should be identical in here. So let's say, for example, it's Friday, but I accidentally opened Sunday's dose. I'm going to go ahead and administer that dose as long as it's the same medication and the same dosage. I'm going to go ahead and administer that. I'm going to flip over on the back of the bar and document what happened. And I'm going to put a note on the cassette. So when Sunday's caregiver comes in, they simply drop back and they open up Friday's dose. Now we're right back on track. I've also had caregivers ask me, okay, what happens if I open two doses at the same time? Well, if you hold your hand properly, that will never happen. But you know what? We all make mistakes. So if you should accidentally open two doses at the same time, the best way to handle that is administer the proper dose, then waste the other dose in accordance with your facility's policy on wasting medications. Then when that dose is needed, of course, that caregiver is going to go to their spare dose and administer the medications from the spare dose on the cassette. That's pretty much all there is to administering medications with the OPUS system. It's very simple, very easy, very efficient. Keep in mind, use your time pass checklist. You should also have on your cart the short version of our manual, which basically tells you step by step by step how to administer medications with the OPUS medication system. I also invite you to visit our website, rxcareassurance.com. And if you have any questions, need any further information, please contact us or contact your provider pharmacy.